Hey guys, so what I'm going to be doing here today is I'm going to be reading out of Zero Day, and I'm going to be reading chapter 32, which is basically where we left off in class. So here we go. The next day after school, Addie sat in the president's study. Her laptop was open on the coffee table, but she was staring past it at the television on the wall, where live news coverage of a White House press conference was underway. President Webster stood at the podium, flanked by American flags, the White House emblem displayed on the blue wall behind his head. He addressed the room full of reporters but looked straight at the camera. "Thank you for being here today," he said. "As you know, we have been pursuing leads in the recent attacks on our nation's capital carried out by a group calling themselves Cerberus. The perpetrators of these attacks believed that they could use fear tactics to chip away at our core values, but they never will win. Today, I'm pleased to announce that we've made a significant breakthrough in our investigation with the arrest of an individual linked to the cowardly attack at the Reagan International Trade Center." Addie sat up straight. "An arrest?" A murmur worked its way through the crowd of reporters. Questions began to erupt from the front row. "Mr. President, how were you able to identify the suspect? Mr. President, can you give us a name? What is the alleged attacker's background?" "Jonathan will get to your questions in a moment," the president said, nodding toward his press secretary. "But first, I'd like to introduce FBI Director Justin Lasseter, who, with the help of local law enforcement, apprehended the suspect this morning as he attempted to board a plane to Mexico at Reagan National." Addie took several deep breaths through her nose as President Webster moved to the side and Lasseter took the podium. He placed a sheet of paper on top. "Thank you, Mr. President, sir," he said and began reading from his notes. "At 10:26 this morning, we apprehended Tyler Randall, 19 years old and of no fixed address, in connection with the attack on the Republican fundraiser at the Reagan International Trade Center. Mr. Randall has been positively identified as the employee who was seen fleeing the room just moments before the artificial bomb detonated. Mr. Randall is now in custody and is being questioned. His laptop has been sent to the FBI forensics unit to extract any data that can lead us to other members of the Cerberus organization." He stopped reading and cleared his throat. "We believe today's arrest marks a significant turning point for the investigation into these attacks and expect more developments to be forthcoming. Thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity to speak, and to the members of the press for being here today." The director folded up his paper, stuck it in his suit pocket, and stepped away from the podium with a nod. Press Secretary Jonathan Waite moved behind it. "Thank you, Director Lasseter," Waite said, and turned to address the reporters. "I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time." A reporter with long black hair in the front row raised her hand. "Yes, Anne," Waite said. "Thank you," she answered. Do you believe that the suspect in custody, Mr. Randall, is tied to all three attacks? And if not, do you believe he can lead you to the people who are responsible?" Waite nodded. "Yes, we have very good reason to believe Mr. Randall played a key role in the Cerberus organization, and based on what we've been learning from him so far, we expect more arrests will be forthcoming." More murmurs and hands being raised. Waite gestured at another reporter. Addie squinted at the television in disbelief. The man stood. "So, does the administration believe that the threat is past?" "I believe we have Cerberus on the run," Waite responded, "and it's just a matter of time before we dismantle the entire organization." Addie couldn't take any more. She flicked off the television. There was only one person who held all the power, and he would never let himself be known to someone like Randall. She sucked in a breath and considered making contact, but suddenly it felt too risky. So she walked into the hall where Christina was perched like a sentry. Addie didn't think that she'd ever get used to dragging a Secret Service agent with her everywhere she went. At least it wasn't forever. "Hey, Christina," she said. "How's it going?" Alvarez answered. "Good," Addie said. "How long till I'm expected upstairs?" "Well, you got about an hour," Alvarez said. "Enough time for a run?" Addie asked. "Yeah, sure," Alvarez says. "We can hit the track." "Oh," Addie said. I was sort of hoping we could go somewhere more interesting instead, like The tidal basin or the mall? I'm starting to feel a little cooped up here. Sorry, Ad, Alvarez said. Takes a little more planning to do an off-premises run. We can't just have you out there in the open without proper protection in place. Of course, Addie could only imagine. The Secret Service would probably have to shut down all of D.C. just so she could take a jog. The track it is, she said. Beats the treadmill. Addie changed, and she and Alvarez exited through the glass doors of the Oval Office into the south lawn. A quarter-mile track circled the grounds, weaving its way between the gardens and trees, passing the tennis courts and swimming pool. Addie extended each leg one at a time and stretched her hamstrings. She sucked in a breath of fresh air and raised her arms over her head, leaning from side to side. Okay, so maybe it wasn't a running path along a river through the woods or a sandy beach, but it would do. See ya, Addie said with a little salute to Alvarez. Alvarez nodded. Enjoy your run. Addie took off, feet flying and arms pumping. She had never been good at starting slow. Within minutes, her heart was pounding and sweat was beating on her neck, but she didn't let up. Soon the endorphin rush would kick in, her ragged breathing would yield to a runner's high, and Addie would feel truly alive. As she rounded her first lap, it occurred to Addie that her running skills might look a little too good for someone who'd been locked up for 8 years. So, she slowed her pace and let her mind go blank. Third, fourth, fifth lap. Addie listened to the birds chirping. The White House became a colorless blur that melted into the blue sky. Just another cloud drifting along the horizon. As Addie circled the track, an eighth and final time, she paused by the east exit, inspecting the tall wrought iron gate that kept the world out. Or did it lock her in? She wasn't sure anymore. For a split second, she wondered how high she'd need to jump in order to clear it. One good running start, and she would fly right over. The muscles in her calves twitched as she remembered the last fence that she jumped. Security had been terrible at that airport. The place was utter chaos. A jumble of people and luggage all clogged around customs, carts banging into each other, babies screaming. Addie had sailed through the lobby and right out the front doors before anyone had realized she was gone. But there had been nowhere to go, the ocean on all sides, endless sky above. She had stopped, surrounded by infinite blue. She was 12, alone. As she stared out at the ocean, she wondered if freedom smelled like the sea, all salt and fish and sun. If waves could cradle you in their arms and sweep you away somewhere safe. But just then a seagull had screeched overhead, startling her, and in her plaintive wail, she'd heard the sound of Mikey's screams as the belt hit his skin. That was the moment she knew she couldn't do it. There was no escape. There never would be. The waves would only crush her until her lungs were filled with water and she could no longer breathe. So, she had turned around and run straight back to the man that she called father. No, she didn't just call him father. In that moment, she knew it was useless to try to deny it anymore. He was her father, and nothing would change that fact, no matter how far she might go. Addie was jolted from her thoughts by the sound of someone yelling her name. Addie! Addie! Get down! Addie turned to see Alvarez running straight toward her, gun drawn, arms and legs pumping double time. Addie froze. I said get down! Alvarez yelled again. What? Did Alvarez think she was trying to escape? Was she getting ready to shoot her? But before Addie could even process what was happening, the Secret Service agent was on Addie's back, knocking her flat to the ground. Something whooshed overhead. Addie looked up in time to see what looked like a child's toy airplane fly directly over them and skid to a stop in the grass beyond the track. Alvarez shouted into her mouthpiece. We've got a breach, she said. Drone on the south lawn. Unknown whether device is armed. Alvarez grabbed Addie's arm and pulled her to her feet. Let's go, she said, not even giving Addie time to wipe away the gravel lodged in her palms. They sprinted across the lawn as Secret Service agents rushed out of the White House in the direction of the drone. Just then, the device exploded, sending a twist of blood-red smoke into the sky above it. Addie screamed. The Secret Service agents stopped in their tracks. Their earpieces buzzed, but instead of a message from the central office, a different voice broke into the communicators. You have been warned.